Have you watched that episode of SpongeBob SquarePants?
Sure.
Do you watch SpongeBob SquarePants?
Yes,
Have you? But like
randomly.
Yeah. Okay. But like not at some point, like quite consistently.
No.
Yeah. I didn't see that being true for you.
Why? I enjoyed it, but I watched it because it was on TV. I'm not going to go look for it now and be like, let's put SpongeBob on. But like, I liked it. Got nothing against it. Okay. Why did you say you didn't see that as being true for me?
I'm gonna keep it pushing. Now, there's this one episode on SpongeBob where he's like, I'm ready. Like it's his first day of work, and he's like, I'm ready.
Says no one ever on their first day of work.
Well, I was pretty excited for my first day of work.
You were?
Yeah, I was like, I'm ready. Let's go. Welcome to Leave Me Alone, I'm Working on It. I'm Cassie J.
And I'm Ore.
Fun times.
Is it?
Always.
It's a little too early in the day for me.
Is it? Mm-hmm. Really? Mm-hmm. But you're an early person. You wake up quite early.
Yes, but wake up early to be with myself and get things done.
I see.
Not wake up early to socialize. To people.
So is this a lot right now?
This is too much for me. This is way too much for me.
I love you
too. And a little bit less.
I love you too. And I'm going to give you more.
A little bit less from you, Cass.
Well, actually, let's talk about this because this is a little conflict. Today, I want to talk about conflict resolution.
Today, she wants to punish Ore because the one thing Ore hates, like, I don't like conflict.
I hate it. Even me, I hate it. But it's one of the things, conflict resolution as a concept is something that I'm working on because it's something that you have to figure out how to manage.
Yeah.
Because the reality is that in any relationship, conflict will arise.
Sure.
Conflict will arise. This can be a work relationship, your boss, your manager, your husband, your wife, you as siblings, you as business partners, you as colleagues. Conflict is a part of every single relationship. And understanding it and surviving it is going to be the indicator of how successful that relationship is going to be. Because if you can't manage conflict, if you can't engage in conflict, if you can't move through the conflict, that relationship is rocky. It's rocky. It's rocky.
I think beyond managing it is if you go into, and I'm aware, fully aware, I am not great at it, but I'm aware that if you go into any relationship, any interpersonal relationship with the mindset to avoid conflict, that relationship is also doomed. Because everything you sweep under the carpet is going to come out at some point, and then there'll be a big blowout, and now there's nothing to salve it because you literally have burned the house down. So you're right. I don't like it, but yes, we need to.
I don't like conflict.
It's like, let's all just get along. This is one of those few times where I'm like, let's just kumbaya and braid each other's hair
and pretend it's all okay.
Yeah.
We're all in this together.
I saw that coming.
High School Musical.
Fully saw that coming on.
Lol's another thing that took the world by storm. I actually saw Zac Efron and Vanessa Hudgens just talking about it and just being like, recently, they're like, we're so embarrassed.
Why?
Like, we're so embarrassed.
No, don't be embarrassed.
Everybody was making fun of them, but you could just see, like, Zac was just like, I can't believe they were playing him his dance moves, like dancing around the golf course.
Well, you wouldn't be Zac Efron without High School Musical, so there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's like that scripture that my mom likes to say, do not despise the days of small beginnings. Like, everyone's going to start small at some point. Everyone's going to start looking silly. Everyone's going to start not great. Like, nobody arrives and it's Beyonce.
I really, really feel like your parents need to, like, write a book or something. Like, they need to write a book. They need to, like, I don't know. They just, the wisdom bombs are so deep and are so real.
I didn't know where that was going.
The other thing that I was thinking about, because, I mean, in the last episode also, your parents just have shown up for you so great, and we unpacked that a little bit. But I was also just thinking, like, the appreciation for parents and their wisdom, because parent-child is also a conflict.
It is
a huge conflict. But the appreciation for parents and their wisdom, I don't know about you, but your parents seemed pretty chilled the whole way through. Me and my parents, like this. And now I'm just like, good grief, you were right. And my pride is hurt because I'm like, okay, fine, you were right. But beyond my pride being hurt, I'm just like, they were right.
I think every child arrives
this
at this
moment.
Yes, where you're like, they were right. And the thing is, to your point, we only agree grudgingly that they were right. Like you're not gonna go and be like, oh my God,
Mom, Dad, you were right.
Nah,
it's like, Mom, Dad, okay, yeah,
like, fine, yeah,
you were right. You were
Yep.
right. I should have done it like this, or I should have gone here, or I shouldn't have done that.
It's the circle of life.
It's a circle of life.
It is what it is.
But yeah, so me, I'm also very, very conflict averse. Like, I don't like conflict. I also would prefer a kumbaya world where everything is hunky dory and sweet and sunshine and roses. And what I have seen is that my aversion to conflict has hurt relationships.
Yes.
Right? Like it has been an issue. And it's been an issue for me in the sense that something will happen, and then because I don't want to address it, because I don't want to come across as difficult, or I don't want to hurt you, or I don't want to be the aggressor in the relationship. I don't say anything, and then it stays quiet. And there's a friend who is now sadly an ex-friend, okay, because of this exact thing. And I will take this on myself I'll take part of it onto myself. But this person and I, like, we got together, we connected. It was a beautiful relationship. It was a beautiful friendship. And she is in a lot of ways a taker. Okay, and I don't say this negatively. Okay, she's a taker, and I'm a giver. Okay, and because she's such a strong taker, and because I'm such a big giver, the demise of the relationship was when I stopped giving. Right, she was like, "What's happening? Like, what's wrong? Like, I don't understand."
Yeah.
And the demands, what I was feeling was the demands of what she was taking were getting bigger and bigger and bigger and too much. And I started to feel very taken advantage of, and I started to feel not very seen and not very heard and not very, appreciated, but in her defense, that's all I'd ever shown her.
You'd never
and
spoken
I'd never
about it.
spoken up about it, right? I'd never spoken up about it. Instead, what I did was every time something happened, I was just like, oh, okay, you sweep it under the rug, and then another thing happens, and then you sweep that under the rug, and then another thing happens, and you sweep that under the rug. And then what happens is that little thing that you swept under the rug initially, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and now there's a lump in the rug. There's a lump in the rug.
And you're going to trip on that thing.
And what's going to happen? You're going to trip. You're going to trip over the thing, and that's exactly what happened. It was this explosion of us both falling over this lump that we weren't talking about and weren't dealing with. But again, I take it on me because I was the creator of the lump. She was not the creator of the lump. And what I should have done was been like, friend, this thing is hurting me. It's sore. It's like, can we not? Can we change this? And to her credit, she probably would have been like, oh, cheapest, sorry. Like I didn't realize. She probably would have had to work on it, but I like to believe that she would have heard me, taken my feedback and been like, oh, I care enough about you, to work on this thing. But I didn't give her that option.
It's funny because that's exactly what I was going to say. And again, look, in this relationship here, I'm not the one who likes to see the good in people. That's this hun.
I do.
I'm just like, you did what? Scorched earth. You did what? Cancelled. You did what?
I like to believe that everyone is good.
No, I'm not that hun. Yeah. But like, I've come to a point in my life where I'm starting to realize, like what you just said. Now, sometimes you just need to give people the opportunity to to come correct. Like, you need to give people the opportunity to realize they're wrong. You need to give people the opportunity to rise to the task. Because if you keep, and I do this as well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 friendships that are now ex-friends, because I kept sweeping things under the rug because I didn't want to confront you. I didn't want to bring this thing up. And eventually that thing blows up or it trips me up. And at no point in time have I called you to be like, hey girl, this thing isn't working because of this reason. And it doesn't have to be, because when we think of conflict, we always think like, violence, we're ready to fight. It doesn't have to be that way.
The word conflict has so many negative connotations to it.
It's not, doesn't have to be that way. But if you don't give your friends, your family, the people in your life, sometimes give them the opportunity to actually recognize that what they're doing is hurting you and possibly value you enough to change, you're just going to be losing friendships right, left, and center. Not because people don't love you, not because people don't want to be in your life, but sometimes they don't know.
Yeah,
they don't know.
They don't know.
Because if you pretend like it's okay, then they're going to keep doing the same thing because they're like, we're okay.
Yeah. I think you're right. And I think that, you know, one of the things that has helped me in trying to work through, you know, my conflict aversion and my conflict resolution is been understanding, more like drawing the line in the sand on like what are the rules of engagement here, you know, in whatever relationship. Like if we understand from the beginning, like you think about games 30 seconds. She's not a board games person. Love
but
board
I
games.
hate 30 seconds even more because I'm traumatized by people fighting every single time that game is played.
Right? Like there are games in the world. 30 seconds is one of them. And I feel like 30 seconds is a very South African game. I didn't realize that. I thought it was a global game. But basically, you get a word. You get a card, there's words on the card, you have to describe the words on the card without saying the words on the card.
It's like charades, but for South Africa.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah. And within South Africa, friendships die on this game.
30 seconds. I have seen this nearly happen multiple times.
People throw things, people leave. Like it's wild. It's a lot of fun, but it can escalate and it gets bad. But again, what we've learned in playing 30 seconds is to establish the rules at the beginning limits a lot of the conflict in. And I want to use us as an example here, like our relationship. Like Ora is very conflict averse. I'm very conflict averse.
This is starting to sound like couples therapy.
What do you mean?
Go on.
I'm giving an example of how it has worked, you know, like Ora's conflict averse, I'm conflict averse, but I think like in us starting our friendship, we had a very real conversation in the beginning.
We did.
It was very real.
We had many real conversations.
But one of the things was that like I am an imperfect person. Ora is an imperfect person.
What do you mean? I understand it.
And we're coming together to create something. This podcast, we're coming together to build a friendship because it was friendship first and podcast second, but we're coming together and understanding that we're imperfect. A key thing that needs to be true for both of us is the minute something happens that we don't like, you have to speak up. Like you have to speak up and you speak up immediately. Don't sit on it for like 2-3 weeks. Let it fester, let it grow, you know, call it out.
And that thing is hard.
It's hard. No.
That thing is
so tough.
Hard.
It's so tough. And there's sometimes where we've got it right and there's sometimes where we've not got it right? But like, I'm proud of us for the times we've got it right. There's been times where there's been like a thing and we're like, oh, I didn't like that. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Say less. And we keep it pushing, right? But I don't know. I think for me, like that's been something, like having those very open and very frank conversations from the beginning has been really helpful.
Yeah, it's difficult to do. And I'm working on it, I know. But like even in my relationship with Demi, one of the first, because like you said, you've got to establish the rules of the game.
What are the rules of engagement?
One of the first rules when we first started dating many years ago was he was like, if we're upset with each other, there is no sleep for us. We're not going to sleep, right? And me, I was just like, because homegirl can keep a grudge, hey?
Yeah.
But true. I will keep a silent grudge. You won't know. I won't act out about it. It's just me keeping a grudge. And he was like, no, we're gonna sort. And I'm like, how? Like it was such an alien concept to me. You want this thing to happen today and you want me to say it's today. No, I need 4 to 5 business days to process.
To sit on it and process it. Yeah.
And as I mean, I'm not there yet. I'm still working on it. But as we started to practice it, it got to a point where there was this one time, I don't even know what we got into a fight about, but we weren't even in the same country. And so we'd had this fight over the phone. And neither one of us, because we're so used to resolving things, neither one of us could go to sleep in our different countries where we were in. And at like 4 a.m., I'm like, I've had enough. And I pick up the phone and he picks up immediately. And I'm like, you didn't sleep either? And he's like, no, we were supposed to solve this before going to sleep. Like it had become a part of, I want to say I'd been trained.
It's become a part of the system.
But it's become a part of the system that it's like, you need to do this thing. And I still struggle with it every day. But just understanding, like, this is how it needs to happen for this relationship. This is how it needs to happen with this friendship. Keeping that top of mind, it really does. Yeah. It helps you. But the other side of this thing I want to say is, if you are the person who is going to be on the receiving end, because you won't always be the one bringing up the conflict.
For sure.
You might be the person who is transgressed,
correct,
right?
Yeah.
You also need to enter into that space graciously enough and with the top of mind that we said it was okay for you to call me out immediately, so I need to accept that. Because it's difficult to also accept.
1,000%.
It's difficult. You also need to
1,000%. 1,000%. You also, and again, rules of engagement, establishing them in the beginning. But you're right. It's a key part of it. Like, call it out immediately, but then be receptive.
Yeah, be
receptive to hearing that. Oh, I might have dropped the ball. There. But yeah, so Ora and I very conflict averse. But there's a new. I'm gonna call him a new friend. His name is Duncan. And he's great. I really enjoyed getting to know him and spending time with him. And the other day we were working from this coffee shop, and he was like, we were talking about something, and he literally was like, I love conflict, and I was like, sir. Unpack that emotion for me, please. And the way he described it, obviously it's not like he likes chaos. That wasn't what he was saying. What he was saying is that he likes the idea of, getting into a room, taking apart an idea, putting it back together, challenging it to ultimately make it better, and he enjoys that process. He enjoys that a lot. He's also he's very, very straightforward. Like, he's a very, very straightforward guy. And so there's been times where, he's, he said, like, this is what I think. Even if it is not a popular opinion, there's no beating around the bush. And what I found is it's been very refreshing, because for me, I'm like, I know always where you stand, like, I know always where you stand. I'm not confused by that. But for me, there's also been a lot of learnings. And in this confrontation journey, two schools of thought. We spent a lot of time talking about the averse and how that pros and cons. But there's also pros and cons of being super confrontational, because you also get those people that are so confrontational that they challenge you on every single thing, every little idea. The Karens of the world, or people who are just, I don't know, geared to, like, who are bracing for impact. At every moment,
who are constantly on the offensive.
And it might even be like, there's someone in our world as well who's like this, but who will just say the opposing idea just for the chaos.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Like, just for the chaos. And you're just like, why are you like this?
Just to stir the pot.
Why are you like this? And I don't know. Yeah, so I think stuff like that. And I think so I think it's important, and again, I'm just wrapping the idea, but I think it's important, this thing of, if you let a small thing snowball, that snowball is going to get big very quickly, and relationships will deteriorate. And that snowball can come from both sides, being super confrontational and not being confrontational enough.
But then what do you do? Because, like, if you're someone like me who is conflict averse and is learning to, address things as they happen, and you find yourself in a relationship, in a friendship, where the other person is they're not conflict averse, but they're not open to feedback. They're not open to being called out. And you find that, because if you're learning to do something and you keep getting shut down, it's very easy for you to just go back into your shell. So, like, if you bring up something to someone and you're like, this thing that you did, and you bring it up calmly, no fights, just calmly, just like addressing like this thing that you did or this thing that you said to me, XYZ, and they discard it. You know, it's very easy for you to just still sweep it under the rug. I'll give you an example. I have a friend who had said something very negative about my future.
Sure.
Like very negative about my future. Now,
sorry, that statement is wild.
To your point on not going into it expecting that there's malice, that's how I want to see it now. Like maybe she didn't mean it that way. Maybe she didn't. I don't know.
What did she say? Am I allowed? Sorry, okay. We're protecting anonymity.
Yeah, I don't know that because I haven't fully
processed it.
Not even processed it. I haven't fully addressed it with her.
Got it. Okay, like say less.
Yeah, there's been a lot of back and forth. Yeah. But what I realized is that in that moment, when she said that thing, I shouldn't have swept it under the rug or kept it pushing. I should have been like, excuse me, ma'am. Don't you ever say that to me again. Yeah. If you're not going to speak favorably or positively about my future
and about me,
don't speak to me at all. You know, it's fine. It's okay. I should have done that. I didn't. And then it took me years, but then she said it a second time.
Sure.
At which point now I'm like, okay, obviously you don't think that there is any good for me in the universe. I know I'm very, very dramatic. I'm Nigerian. Y'all got to deal with this thing. Obviously you don't want what is good for me. Obviously something is happening somewhere. So now I'm like actually upset about it, but I still don't address it.
Yeah.
And then we go on this journey of me learning how to speak up and whatever. So I'm like, okay, I'm trying. But obviously I'm still going to have to learn in my own way. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And so something happens and an opportunity presents itself for me to say this thing lightheartedly. Yeah. But like for me, it's like an opportunity to just even bring it out into the open. Like there's an issue here. Yeah. And so I do say this to her lightheartedly in this situation and discards me. It's gonna be like what you're like literally the reaction was like, what you're saying is nonsense. What you're saying has no meaning. And I remember just thinking, oh my good, like I felt worse than if I hadn't even addressed it at all. At that point I was like, I should have left it alone. I should have just done what I normally do, sweep it under the rug and keep it pushing. Because I felt worse because now I've summoned up this courage to bring this thing to you. Sure. And now you've told me that I'm dumb.
Sure.
So like plus me, plus my feelings, plus the nonsense you said about me, none of this matters in the grand scheme of things. It was very hurtful. So now I don't know. I'm like,
do you know what's also worse about this, but also an important lesson as well, is in this scenario, and even in my scenario with the story I told earlier, the other person is just fine.
Yeah.
They're living their day. They're walking through life. They're like, oh, Cassie is great. Oh, Cassie and I are friends. Oh, Ore is my friend. Oh, Ore will do. Ore will show up for me. Ore will do things. Meanwhile, Ore is like struggling, processing, trying to maneuver her way through this emotion, this feeling, this outcome. So I think the lesson and the trying to do is to call it out as soon as you can, because I think there's something to be said also about like acknowledging the different personalities. Yeah. Like if something happens and I need to sit in it for a little bit, like then I need that space to be able to do that. Yeah. But the thing is don't let that little bit of space, 3-4 days, turn into 3-4 years, because what also happens in 3-4 years is what something that might have been small festers and it grows.
But I understand that, but I think that regardless of when a person decides to address conflict or address an issue, the receiving party needs to be gracious enough to be like, I'm so sorry. I know this happened a bazillion years ago. I'm sorry you feel this way. It's the same issue, because you're right. Sometimes we do need to sit with it. Sometimes you need to process it. Sometimes you need to check, am I the crazy person in this scenario? And it's not quite the same thing. And this is going to get really, really dark really quick. But it's kind of the same thing where people are like, if he sexually assaulted you 5 years ago, why are you only saying it now?
Got it.
It's taken me 5 years to process.
To get there.
It's taken me 5 years to be able to confront my what is it called now? I don't know.
Aggressor.
My aggressor. There you go. So like it's sometimes people are struggling, and I don't think it matters 10 years, 20 years. The statute of limitation has passed. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm still hurt. I'm still traumatized by this thing you said to me when I was 16.
Yeah.
If I'm saying it to you now, yes, I should have said it in the moment. Okay. But and I understand it's been 20 years. It means nothing to you now.
Yeah.
Like you don't even remember that you said this. But I still think the right thing to do is to be gracious enough to be like, oh, I'm so sorry that this affected you this way.
I'm so sorry that it hurt
I'm
you
so
the
sorry.
way that it did.
It doesn't matter.
It's true.
And that's what I'm struck. Because I understand. Those of us that are conflict averse, we must learn. We must practice, get better. Say it now, right? I'm okay. But those of you who are not conflict adverse and are able to address things now and move on from it so quickly must also be gracious enough to be like, I understand that it's past. I'm over it, but this thing hurt you and you're saying it now. I'm sorry. We keep it pushing.
Yeah. I hear you. I think in terms of understanding and breaking down conflict, there is, because I think ultimately what we're talking about is healthy conflict and unhealthy conflict, right? Healthy conflict is this idea that two people are working towards, or working rather against, a problem. Okay? Healthy conflict, we're working against a problem. Unhealthy conflict, we're working against each other.
Yeah.
Right? And that's unhealthy because that's not going to arrive where it needs to arrive.
Yeah.
And the relationship will deteriorate.
Or, well, yeah, but I suppose before that happens, an individual will first of all suffer for that thing. Because if we're fighting each other and one person, sorry.
It's fresh. It's raw.
Yeah,
it's okay.
It's fine.
Deep breaths.
I'm moving on from it.
It's okay.
It's fine.
It's okay. But I think key takeaway: healthy conflict, fighting against a problem. Unhealthy conflict, fighting against each other. The other thing that I wanted to discuss on this conflict is the idea of inner conflict. And inner turmoil.
Oh, yeah.
This thing where you've got conflicting ideas internally. And it can be everything from as silly as like, oh, I'm, on an eating healthy journey and I've had a bad day. All I want to do is order some KFC, but I should make a salad.
Let me tell you what Pedro says to do.
Oh, yeah. What's the tip for this?
Pedro's like, if you are, like, you've been on a clean eating journey, you're doing all of the right things, and you are craving a cookie, have the goddamn cookie.
Really?
He's like, the more you delay it,
the more you deny yourself,
the more you deny, the craving will grow
and become a
and
monster.
And when you descend, he was like, it's inevitable. You will have that cookie.
But
now when you descend on the cookie pack, instead of having one cookie, you're going to eat the whole thing.
What?
So he's like, if you're craving something, eat the thing and move on. Like, a bad meal does not translate to a bad life. But several bad meals is where there's a problem. So he's like, eat the cookie.
Okay, Pedro.
Then go on and have your salad and your steak for
wisdom.
dinner. And you just continue. So eat the cookie.
Eat the cookie. Okay, Pedro, I'll eat the cookie.
A personal trainer says so. Eat the cookie.
Eat the cookie. But yes, okay. So this idea of inner conflict and inner turmoil as well is something to address. And what I was going to say is, in this whole inner conflict thing, it really is about finding the method to pass through it.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
Like you weigh up the pros, you weigh up the cons, and then
don't weigh it too much. Don't get lost in it.
Well, it depends on what the decision is. A KFC or a salad is a quick decision. Do I move to China or Australia? A bigger decision.
I know, but I don't mean like that. I mean like when you've obviously got your pros and cons.
Yeah.
It's clearly stated. And then you just continue going round and round and round in circles to avoid making a decision.
Fair. Shoo, that should be an episode on its own. I think we should wrap it there. But I've got my episode for next time. But yeah, so conflict resolution, healthy conflict, unhealthy conflict. We need to, something I'm working on. Seriously, something I'm working on how to manage,
same.
And how to navigate my way through. But yeah, share with us your stories. Come say hi on socials. You can find us on Instagram and on TikTok, and of course you can like, follow, comment, and subscribe on anywhere and everywhere you find your podcast: YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Apple Podcasts. It's been amazing having you here. Okay, love you. Bye.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. Please don't forget to like and subscribe anywhere and everywhere you find your podcasts. Also, you can watch and subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Okay, love you. Bye.